very much indeed. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Through the Keyhole, the show that gives you a distinctly stylish look at the distinctive styles of the famous. Tonight, as always, what we're going to do is to get the keys to borrow the keys, shall we say, to two fascinating homes of well-known personalities. And then, with Lloyd Grossman's help, we'll be taking a privileged peep behind closed doors. But the question is, whose? Whose? Well, we've got three people here who are going to try and answer that question. First of all, who was it who first said, blondes have more fun and he should know? It's that beautiful, lovely blonde, Mr. Chris Tarrant. And then, proving that two blondes have twice as much fun, Miss Eve Pollard with him. And finally, a man who hides his natural shyness behind Britain's favourite pair of flaring nostrils, Mr. Kenneth Williams. Well, now, let's tell you a little more about the game. With the help of our magic keys, we'll be taking a careful look inside two fascinating homes. And that should tell us something, maybe quite a lot, about the person who lives there. All that our friends have to do is to guess whose house it is. Well, then, let's now join Lloyd Grossman straight away at house number 1, then. And watch closely, because remember, the clues are there as we go through the keyhole.
Pink and grey were very fashionable colours for early 80s cocktail bars, so perhaps this person had something to do with pina colada culture at one time. It's certainly someone who likes dogs. There's a wonderful portrait of the family pooch, and quite a nice dog figurine on the windowsill. There's quite an interesting little library here. Lots and lots of cookbooks, books about food, obviously someone who likes eating and likes cooking. And someone who likes traveling as well. Look at all these duty-free bottles of gin. Now, feet seem to be quite important in this household. The lamp has a base made up out of feet, and there's a foot-shaped box. Even the cushion has feet on it, and there's a poster of dancing feet on the wall. So perhaps this person is a dancer of some sort. It's certainly someone who's into body culture. There are two wonderfully moody body shots hanging up on the wall. It seems that the family is very important to whoever lives here, because there is a collection of carefully arranged family snapshots here. And look at this framed letter. Obviously someone with a sensitive soul. This kitchen is quite basic. So far, the only real gadget in here is a rather elaborate coffee maker, ideally suited for a very busy person. But you can see that great works are in hand, and I think there will be a flood of kitchen appliances fairly soon. Now, most of the equipment in here is white, so I think that this person is very, very finicky about neatness. Everything has to be very, very prim and proper, except, of course, for the teapot. How's this for an example of cheeky china? There is quite a quirky sense of humor in this house as well. Look at these fridge magnets, for example. This astonishing piece of equipment, which looks like a cross between a chieftain tank and a molten bicycle, is the sort of thing you usually find in a professional gym. But here, it's in someone's bedroom. So this person is very keen on physical fitness. Maybe, in fact, has a problem keeping fit. Look at that rather sweet teddy bear over there. He's in a tremendous contrast to the very racy black satin sheets. And indeed, all this gold and black seems to come out of the penthouse of a rather luxe hotel in the Gulf states. This person is very concerned about appearance, probably rather young and trendy as well, as there's a large array of very hip cosmetics. Let's look at the evidence now. The dancing feet on the pillow, the cheeky china, and the tank-like bicycle. What sort of person lives in a place like this? David, it's over to you.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Lloyd. And now for our home and studio audience, though not for our panel, here's whose house it is. Now, there you are. Begin the psychoanalysis, if you would, Christopher.
A weirdo, basically. Well, all sorts of extraordinary things, like there's a woman mooning teapot, and I know there's a copy of a book called The Other on the shelf. It's basically there's some notes here, a hard-drinking, dog-loving, foot-fetishist, it's not easy to say, is it, nymphomaniac? Someone who, the Rolls-Royce had J for Jersey on. So it's someone who's made so much money out of whatever he or she does that they live in exile.
Eve.
I think it must be a blonde, because only a blonde would think she'd look good against those black satin sheets. I won't tell you how I know this. She obviously goes out. I think it's she. She obviously goes out quite a lot, because that kitchen is obviously just a framework in which to unwrap Chinese takeaway. No cooking is done there. Absolutely right. But I'm muddled. Muddled in the middle.
But you're right about a she, and you've got claws on blonde there. Kenneth.
Well, I was completely misled, you see, because at first, with the accent on dogs, I thought I'd actually got it, but then we moved into this whole realm of physicality, exercise, and I suddenly, I'm no good at any of that, you know. I mean, when I did my national service, the medical was unbelievable. You know, I had to stand there with nothing on while these men all looked and decided what you were fit for. And one of them actually said, "For heaven's sake, man, pull the stomach round to the front."
Yes, well, you got the physical exercise thing, got a reaction there.
Yes, that's a clue for us, isn't it?
Yes.
That the physical exercise comes into it somewhere.
It certainly does. Christopher.
So it's a blonde lady athlete. So Barbara Cartland's out.
Eve, does this help you at all?
Are we to have a guess now? Is it guessing time?
Getting close.
It's sort of feeling our way and bluffing time, really, isn't it? Hoping the audience help a bit time.
I just wonder if is she sort of showbizy as well as athletic?
Yes.
Oh!
Yes. Can I have a guess? Is it Suzanne Dando?
Correct! She's done it again. Eve Pollard's right. Suzanne Dando comes through the keyhole. Great to see you. Come and take a seat.
Is this a maniac?
Yes, please.
In actual fact, you were thrown by the car because it's my fella's. So that was a bit thrown, and he's very romantic, hence the little message.
Ah.
Oh, yes, the little message was lovely. Broken heart for sale, one owner.
That was after an argument.
Oh, really?
But yes, I framed it. I thought it was quite sweet.
Oh, that was absolutely... Did you reckon... They got there, you see. They got the physical...
I didn't think you was going to get it, because they swapped a few things around the flat. It's slightly different, but it's not quite right. The kitchen is actually... I've just had a wall knocked down. That's why all the tiles are hanging off. I said to them, don't film the kitchen, it looks a mess, but it's halfway there, it's getting there.
But that exercycle is daunting.
It's what we call an aerobic cycle, and it's computerised, and it baffles me as well. It literally baffles me. It's very clever.
And what about the rest of the house? Are you a keen do-it-yourself person? Or?
I am, actually. I put up a lot of my own shelves, and they haven't fallen down yet. But I did the kitchen. I had the wall knocked down, but I had people come in and do the kitchen. But I'm going to re-tile soon. But I haven't got around to doing that yet.
And those who indulge bulge.
I have to remind myself to watch my weight.
But you're so beautifully formed and naturally formed compared to those athletes and gymnasts particularly who are so small and scrawny and so on and so forth. in fact, to get to the very top, like Nadia and Olga and so on, do you actually have to be something actually of a physical freak in those cases? Or?
Well, when I was obviously at the top of my gymnastics career, I was obviously much thinner. You have to be underweight. And I had all sorts of problems, as a lot of gymnasts do. I went through the anorexic stage, and unfortunately, a lot of young girls actually get worse. But I was lucky I had good coaches. I had got a very close family, and Mum and Dad were great, and they helped me through that. But when you're working so hard at a sport, you're so conscious of your weight that it does become a problem. And in gymnastics, obviously, we all know that the girls are very much sort of underweight, but we have to be quite small. I suppose like jockeys have to keep their weight down as well, but I had to watch it.
Well, it's been very nice for us to have you here today.
Thank
and I'd
you.
like to present you with this
Thank you very
souvenir,
much.
the golden through the keyhole key, which will you can let people into the house. Don't let Tarrant in.
No, I'm
but
not letting Tarrant in.
Anybody else?
Nymphomania, that's terrible.
What about the teapot, for goodness sake?
Those
Bare-bottom.
little things are all to do with my boyfriend in the pictures. I mean, he comes round and visits.
I should get rid of him. Come and live in my house. Get rid of him.
It's probably worse than mine.
Yes. Well, now
Thank you very much.
I think Suzanne's boyfriend will be round to your house, probably, in fact, any moment now. Anyway, we'll take a break right there. We'll be back, because in a moment our house detective is going to attack house number 2 and try and work that one out in just a moment. In the meantime, our thanks to Suzanne. Suzanne
you very
Dando, we'll be
much.
right back.
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome back to Through the Keyhole. And in our postbag this week, Mrs. Parker from Renfrew writes, quote, "We've just moved into a new house and we found there was a newspaper stuck on the bathroom ceiling. What can this be for?" Well, Mrs. Parker, Lloyd says the previous owner was obviously one of those people who like to read while they're gargling. Sounds logical. Now let's join Lloyd Grossman at house number 2 and watch closely, because the clues are there as we go through the keyhole.
Blackpool, the Monte Carlo of Lancashire. Not only Britain's most famous seaside resort in the summer, but some people actually live here all year round. Whoever lives here is a very methodical and well-organized person. Just look at how neat and symmetrical the facade of this house is. Why, there's even a brace of lions on either side of the front door. And I think it's someone who saw Gone with the Wind at an impressionable age as well. Look at these columns. Reminds me of Tarrant. Unlike most modern hallways, which are just an excuse to get into a house, this is very, very traditional. It's big and it's bold, and it announces what's meant to be the entrance to a very important house. This sitting room is all white and gold, like a high-class chocolate box. It's very neat, but there's little imagination here. It could belong to a well-to-do accountant. There seems to be a definite interest in sculpture here. Michelangelo's David, very prominently displayed. And this extraordinary composition here, although maybe this indicates a love of horse flesh. There is a lighter side there as well. Look at this clown. Now, maybe the man of the house likes playing the violin, maybe he likes telling jokes. I think that somehow these bits of sculpture are a clue, because otherwise this room is rather self-effacing. It could belong to anyone. It doesn't have a really strong personal stamp on it. And maybe the owner is just very, very shy. He's certainly rather formal, and this is very much a room to be on your best behavior in. There's also definite interest in sphinxes here. The Egyptian motif is interesting, though. There are sphinxes on this coffee table, and there are sphinxes in a table in the next room, so maybe there's some connection with the Middle East. This room really is very much in the nature of a den, and this is obviously where the family relaxes. And they relax around the huge television set or the gigantic stereo. What's interesting about this room, though, is the tremendous collection of lamps. There are lamps with suede shades, lamps with glass shades, lamps with silk shades, and of course this great chandelier. So someone in this household is a bit of a lighting aficionado. I'm most interested, though, in this tremendous array of family photographs on the wall opposite me. Some of them are quite imaginative. Well, in many ways, this snooker room is the most important room in the house. It's incredibly spacious and has a certain professional feel to it. It's also frightfully masculine. Look at this great baronial man in the tin suit next to me. But it seems as if the most important personality in this room really belongs to W.C. Fields. Let's review the evidence. The thundering horseflesh, the lamp mania, and the great American comedian. So what sort of a person lives in a house like this? David, it's over to you.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Lloyd. And now for our home and studio audience, again, here's whose house it is. This time, Kenneth, it's your turn to begin the psychoanalysis.
Yes, I sometimes think you show us all these posh houses just to make us feel terribly inferior. It was very grand, wasn't it? I mean, that drawing room, absolutely magnificent. One felt there was great, privilege there. Prosperity, born to eternal prosperity. One felt that, you know. One felt it was sort of, those social reformers try to queer our pitch, God's on the side of the rich. You know what I mean? So I felt there was a lot of riches, but I felt it was all, you know what I mean? I felt it was self-made. I thought that was all designed for someone who'd made it, in the sense that someone in the profession, our profession, would make it. You know what I mean? You follow me? Are you with me?
I know what you mean, and they know what you mean. Eve.
Oh, well, somebody who likes indoor sports. By that, I mean, since we didn't see any bedrooms. Interesting, we didn't see any bedrooms. Maybe there are none. Maybe they have to kip down in that very elegant room. There was the snooker room. Then there was a lot of lighting, as you say. Obviously, someone who likes reading, perhaps a bit short-sighted, needs a clear light. Someone I wouldn't think with small children around when you look at those white sofas, because we all know what happens to white sofas with small children around. Perhaps a secret Egyptologist. I've no idea who this house belongs to.
Secret Egyptologist? Well, we'll find out about it. Christopher.
Well, it was such an organised house, and yet the whole sort of image of Blackpool is fun and comedy. Is it a comedian? Is it? I can't think of a single organised comedian. I mean, they always live in absolute chaos with sort of dirty old undies in the fridge and things. But it's that Blackpool, the ones I meet, it's that whole Blackpool background. I mean, is it someone who's very much, I don't know, synonymous with the North? Is it a Blackpool sort of old-style comedian?
I think he belongs to the nation, perhaps. Kenneth, can you zero in now?
Well, the thing that interested me, and I thought that was significant, was the prominence given to W.C. Fields. So here I felt is a comedian who admires W.C. Fields enormously. Somebody who perhaps has probably talked on W.C. Fields, you know. And I then thought to myself, who have I heard who's done that sort of thing? And I suddenly thought there was a radio series about W.C. Fields. And there was a special comedian the BBC had to discuss this very man, you know? And that man went on the air and it brought the whole thing to life. It was an incredible programme.
And who was it?
He was called Les Dawson.
God, the excitement was building there. It's like the end of High Noon there for a minute, and then...
You mean I got it wrong?
It all just withered away there, but you're so close, but I don't think you're going to make it.
All that horse racing's irrelevant, isn't it? It's not a funny jockey.
I don't know. We'll find out if he jockeys as well as everything else. As we ask our mystery guest, who's triumphed over the panel, to come through the keyhole. From Punchlines, it's Lenny Bennett. Well,
Monster of the nation, eh?
yes, I understand. A national treasure to be preserved, exactly, a national trust and so on. Incidentally, is W.C. Fields, I mean, Kenneth was waxing so eloquent about this, but is he a great
Yes.
hero of yours?
Yes, absolutely. And remarkably, you were quite right, because funny enough, Les lives less than, what, about 10 miles from me.
Well, there you are.
That's right, you were quite right.
It wasn't bad, was it?
Yes.
No, it wasn't
Very
bad,
good
was
indeed,
it?
my boy, very good, yes. Yes, I suppose he'd be my idol, because he was so clever, way with words, and that sort of quirky wit. I mean, there's so many stories about Fields. I mean, I suppose the best one was he died in 1946 on Christmas Eve, and a lifelong atheist, womanizer, drinker. And on his deathbed, one of his friends was John Barrymore's great drinking buddy, and he went to visit him and found Fields reading the Bible. And said to him, Bill, what are you doing? He said, looking for a loophole.
Great, yes, great classic story.
Yes.
You can feel the way. Oh, absolutely. And now you live actually, not exactly Blackpool, but the Beverly Hills of Blackpool, isn't it?
Thornton Cleveland.
Yes, isn't that what it's called?
It's about 6 or 7 miles outside. I live to the north of Blackpool, Les lives to the south.
Now, there's a romantic story, actually, about the very house that we've just seen, isn't there? Because that was, in a way, for years, your dream, wasn't it?
That's right. When we were married, or before I was married, which is years ago now, my wife Margaret and I, the house on a private road, and we went through it, and Margaret said, if only I could have that house, I'd be happy forever. And the truth was, I couldn't possibly afford it, and I've managed to buy it 11 years ago, and I don't think we'll ever move. Love it there.
That's fantastic. So you'd really taken an eye side of it how long before? A few years before?
Certainly 15 years ago. Before that. Before
Really?
we bought it, yes.
Oh, that's fabulous.
That's right.
That's very romantic indeed. I mean, what about the Egyptian things, by the way, the Sphinxes? Did you do a tour of the Middle East? Or?
No, that's just Margaret. She's crazy for Sphinxes. I don't know. No, it's Margaret does all that. I mean, I'm totally hopeless around the house. I couldn't change the fuse or anything. Yes. Suzanne Denton, incidentally, I meant to tell you at the beginning of the show, she never mentioned she actually ran the marathon with me in 1982, which is terrific for a young lady, never done it in her life, and I thought she was marvellous. She's very fit.
Well, you're very fit. You're running the marathon too.
Every year, yes. I do about 3 a year.
That's fantastic. Well, it's been a joy sharing your home, and I would like to pass on to you this, not pass on, give to you forever. We don't take it back afterwards. This is the Through the Keyhole key, gold key. As a souvenir of how much we've enjoyed having you with us today.
Been a pleasure.
Thank you very much indeed for being with us. Our thanks to Lenny Bennett, our thanks to Kenneth Williams over there, our thanks to Eve Pollard, our thanks to Chris Tarrant, our thanks to Lenny, of course, and to Suzanne Dando, the twin marathon runners of the show, which we didn't know about. Until the next time, our thanks to Lloyd Grossman, too, the only person in this country who still makes house calls. Until the next time, good night.
Are you nosy? I'm just asking because if the answer's yes, you might want to play as Lloyd Grossman goes through the keyhole. That's next and new on Challenge. Then you can't beat a bit of bully, so we're going to step up to the hockey, weekdays at 5 for Bullseye.